Will Everton make the top four? I don't think so. Defensively, they're all over the place. They're just real shaky at the back. A good example of this was Brighton away, which could have ended differently. Everton did end up winning the game, but Brighton were in it pretty much for the whole 90 minutes. Mope could have scored a hat-trick. And the amount of mistakes Everton made in this game was ridiculous. Now, it's all about the 3 points, but you can't go on defending like that for a whole season because bad things will happen. Now, the next game was Liverpool at home, and they actually did play well in that game as well, but it's really hard to judge teams against the big sides, or at least the champions, because the champions do tend to play well, better than not, and they normally have better players. But right from the off, they score within the first 2 minutes. Now, that can happen against any team, but the way it happened was there was too much space in behind. It's a problem that needs to be fixed, and I'm not sure some of the signings are going to fix that problem. They brought in Ben Godfrey from Norwich, a team that got relegated last season. Now, it's probably unfair to judge a player based on a team that he played in, but when you look at the position that he played, he's supposed to be a centre back. I'm not sure he has the credentials to play right back in the Premier League when he got relegated from a side that is now playing in the Championship. That is a bit harsh, but that is the reality. And onto the other players, you've got Yerry Mina, who he's a terrible defender. He makes so many mistakes that he just fills me with anxiety when I watch him. Then you've got Jordan Pickford, who I'm not sure how to judge him exactly. Like, if you would have asked me 3 or 4 years ago, I would have thought he's one of the best goalkeepers in the Premier League, but now, I don't know, he's another player that fills me with anxiety. I don't know, some players that, it's not exactly that he makes a lot of mistakes, but every time he does make a mistake, it just fills you with uncertainty. So, read into that what you will. Then you got Luka Dean, who he's a terrible defender, but he's really good going forward. So it depends what you want in a team. And then the other player they've got is Keane, who things really haven't worked out for him at Everton. He did really well at Burnley, and that's mainly because of the system. But now that he's moved to Everton, he's more exposed in his position, and he just can't hack it. Now, it's just one game that they've lost against Southampton, so people might be thinking, well, you're just over-exaggerating, what are you talking about, ridiculous, we'll find out what happens, but I just think that the way they're playing right now is not sustainable for a whole season. Moving on to the attack, this is another area that's not sustainable. Calvert-Lewin is scoring all the goals at the moment. Now, that's not really a bad thing. It's actually really good, and he's having a really good season. The problem is that they're relying too heavily on him. And Calvert-Lewin is a player that doesn't really offer a lot to the team besides goals. And when the team is, when they're playing games that are, like a tight game, like a 0-0 or like a 1-1, he's not a player that's really going to add a lot to the game. So when Everton play the big sides, Calvert-Lewin's going to go missing a lot. Rodriguez is going to be the player that's going to be putting in the most effort, and he's going to get burned out real quick. Players need to support this guy more often because there's no way he'd go like this for a whole season. And then there's Richarlison, who, he's been a decent player in the league, but, he's a bit of a hothead, which, it's not necessarily a bad thing, but, he's a player that, it's really weird. He's a frustrating player because he should score more goals, but he doesn't. He's like a Wilfred Zaha where he looks good and he does play well, but not often enough to really, elevate this team. And he just needs more goals to his game. If he does that, he'd become a very good player, but I doubt that's going to happen. The last point I want to make is their structure, the 4-3-3. I'm not sure Everton have the right personnel to play this system because of how exposed defensively they are. Everton are more of an attacking team, and under Ancelotti, you'd expect that, but he needs better players to play in the system. He's already got Rodriguez, and I guess Calvert-Lewin does well. Richarlison, I think he does well on most occasions, but I know maybe you could bring another player for that position, which might be a bit harsh. And then you've got Doucouré, you've got Allen, and then you've got Gomez. It's weird, like, this team looks decent on paper, but I'm not sure if it's enough to take this team to the next level. especially when, this team is so bad defensively. Or maybe it's not really the personnel, but just the way they play. If they change the way they play, maybe like they'd be more consistent across the whole season. But if they go and playing this gung ho kind of style across the whole season, then they won't get anywhere near the top four. They'll just be exposed time and time again.